No worries. Okay, no problem. Let's do one thing, Cypress. Let's just take a very small demo since not many people have joined. We'll quickly take a very short demo for you to understand like what the course is all about, and so that you could get a clear picture of what you're gonna gain or what you're gonna benefit from the course. Okay, so before that, a quick formal introduction on my name is Mohammed Shoaib. I'm a cybersecurity trainer certified from EC Council, and I teach courses such as ethical hacking, web application pen testing, security operations center analysis, in short, also known as SOC analysis. Okay, and I've been working with DurgaSoft since the past year. And today's demo session is on Certified Ethical Hacking version 11, the latest version of the course from EC Council. And this is a course specifically designed for people who are completely new to the cybersecurity domain. If you're planning on changing your domain, if you're a complete fresher, and if you want to choose a new career, if you want to start it in cybersecurity, this is the first course that you have to go through, because this deals with all the foundational and technical concepts that relate to cybersecurity field in an organization. Okay, before we dive in, we need to understand what hacking is and what ethical hacking is. So these are the two definitions that we need to clearly understand, because mostly people confuse between them. They assume that hacking and ethical hacking is the same thing, but no, there's a minor difference between them. When we talk about hacking, hacking is nothing but the procedure of trying to gain access to information systems. Okay, these information systems again could be anything, Prasad. They could be as small as a mobile phone to as big as a web application server or a database. So hacking is the procedure of trying to gain access to such information devices without the permission or the consent of the person or the organization owning those systems. And this is usually performed by hackers for their own benefit. Okay, so they can steal the data, they can destroy the data, or they can just sell the data for their financial benefit once they get access to these devices. Now, if hacking seems such a criminal job, why do we have a term called ethical hacking? Is the second question. Because ethical is something which is completely legal, which is completely allowed. Okay. So when we talk about ethical hacking, this is the procedure of trying to find vulnerabilities. A vulnerability is nothing but a loophole, a flaw, a weakness in the system. And using these weaknesses only, hackers try to get access to the devices. So your job as an ethical hacker would be to try to find these vulnerabilities with the permission of the organization. And once you find them, report it back to the organization so that they can apply an appropriate patch for it. Okay. And once the patch is applied, thereby you're closing the vulnerability and you're closing the doorway, or you're closing the path for the hacker to cause any harm. So with ethical hacking, you're trying to increase the security of the organization rather than causing any harm. So that is the main difference between hacking and ethical hacking. And in our course, we're going to be learning how this ethical hacking is performed, how these vulnerabilities are found, and how can hackers use these vulnerabilities, and how do we patch them up. Okay, this is clear. Cypress, what is hacking? What is ethical hacking? You can let me know in the chat box since the audio is not working. Okay, perfect. Now, depending on these two definitions, again, we can categorize the various types of hackers. There's someone known as a black hat hacker. There's someone known as a gray hat hacker. And finally, there's someone known as a white hat hacker. Now, these are the common types of hackers that you come across in a real-time scenario. Okay, so a black hat hacker is also known as a cyber criminal, and someone who performs hacking for his own benefit. On the other hand, the hero of the story is white hat hacker, also known as an ethical hacker, or they are also sometimes known as penetration testers. Okay, these people are the ones who perform hacking by abiding by the laws and policies of the organization. They work with the permission of the organization and try to increase the security of the infrastructure. In between now, there's a gray hat hacker, also known as bug bounty hunters. These people are a combination of black hat as well as white hat hackers. Like a black hat hacker, they don't ask for permission before performing penetration testing. But once they find the vulnerability, they report it back like a white hat hacker. But they don't do that for free. They do it for a bounty. A bounty is nothing but a reward for finding that vulnerability and reporting it back. So they need to be given a reward for performing that activity and not taking advantage of it. And that reward could be a money reward, or that could be a reputational reward, anything that benefits them and their career. Okay, so these people are bug bounty hunters who find vulnerabilities on websites and report it back to the organization for their own benefit. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, definitely. Again, we'll be covering all the three types of hackings as well. We'll cover, again, as I've mentioned, these people are performing hacking and ethical hacking. So black hat hacker performs hacking. Gray hat and white hat hackers perform ethical hacking. and we're going to be learning both the techniques. Okay, how hacking is done, and in order to understand if you're reporting the vulnerabilities back, that is known as ethical hacking. If you're not reporting it back, if you're just taking advantage out of it, if you're exploiting it, that is known as just hacking. So we're going to be learning both the techniques. Prasad, is that clear? Perfect, perfect. Okay, now proceeding further, let's understand how this hacking or ethical hacking is performed. So whenever you want to talk about performing this cybersecurity attacks or whatever it be, hacking or ethical hacking, there are 5 important steps to it. Okay, and these steps are known as cyber kill chain or hacking cycle. And again, whatever hacker you take, whether it be a black hat hacker, gray hat hacker, or a white hat hacker, they perform them in the same systematic order. Okay, so the first step of hacking or ethical hacking is information gathering. It can also be called as reconnaissance or footprinting. Second step is known as scanning. It can also be called as enumeration. Third step is gaining access. Fourth step is maintaining access. And the last step is reporting or clearing traces. Now, the reason I've specifically mentioned or in the last step is because this is where it makes all the difference between a white hat hacker and a black hat hacker. So all the first 4 procedures are going to be the same, whether you are a white hat hacker, gray hat hacker, or a black hat hacker. It does not matter. Okay. What makes the difference is the last step. So if you're a white hat hacker, you try to report all the procedures taken or the steps that you have taken and the vulnerabilities that you found. If you're a black hat hacker, you won't report it back, obviously, but you try to take advantage out of them and you try to remove all the evidences, remove all your footprints. That is also known as clearing traces. So this step-by-step procedure might give you a good information or good picture of what are the steps that are taken and how the steps are very similar for hacking and ethical hacking as well. Now let's briefly discuss about each of these steps one by one, so you have a clear picture of what we're going to be discussing in the course. Okay, so the first step, information gathering. As the name itself suggests, information gathering is about trying to gather information or trying to fetch information about the target passively. What I mean by passively is that for whatever organization is your target, you're trying to get this information about them from the internet, from third-party sources. So on the internet, there are some good special websites, some good gold mines from where you can gather a lot of information that you didn't know about earlier. Okay, and what kind of information are we trying to gain over here? This is the information as follows. So you try to gain information such as the IP address information or the range of IPs used by the servers, the whois information, the DNS records in the DNS servers, employee details such as the contact numbers, email addresses, usernames and passwords that were leaked on the internet, and the domain names and the subdomains and the operating systems used by the target organization, and so on. So these are all the information that can be gained about any target organization from the internet, believe it or not. So if I show you a very basic example, I can just go to my browser, and in my browser, I can just search for a website called hunter.io. Now you would have to create an account in this. Once you create an account, as you can notice, I'm logged in with my account. And once you're logged in, you can just search for any domain. For example, if I search for Flipkart, now this is going to show me all the email addresses of the employees of Flipkart, which were leaked on the internet. So if you notice, these are all the email addresses. Okay, Kiran Kumar @flipkart.com, Abhishek Varshi @flipkart.com, Disha Makija @Flipkart, Vijay Krishnan, as you can see. And it also tells you from which sources they were leaked, from on what website these email addresses got leaked, and they're working email addresses, as you can see. Okay, and this can be done for any organization on the internet. So if I search for Tesla.com, I can even find for that organization as well, as you can see. Okay, so this is a good resource for hackers or ethical hackers to perform phishing attacks. Phishing attacks in the sense you can send fake emails and try to get the usernames and passwords through those attacks. So this is a good resource for an attacker to know what are the email addresses on which he can send those attacks or send those malicious emails. Okay. Similarly, if I want to get the DNS information, the server IP address information for any organization, I can just go for DNS dumpster. Again, this is also a very good website to get the information of any organization's whole network infrastructure. So if I just wanted to search for all the email addresses, all the IP addresses linked to any organization, I can just search for that domain over here. So for example, if I go for flipkart.com, And if I click on search, this shows me all the IPs linked to Flipkart and their locations as well. And you can notice this is the whole network topology, all the server information, all their IP address information, all the subdomains, and the whole network information, as you can see. Okay. Now, none of the other websites on the internet would give this information in such a detailed format. Okay. Now, once you get all these IPs, once you get all the addresses and the information, you know where you have to attack on, what are the possible scenario or possible attack vectors that you can find. So these are all the openings for you to find out where there could be a loophole. Okay. So once you get these IP addresses, then you go with the next. Oh, 1 second. You're asking a question. If I wish to find any specific machine or device IP, again, whatever specific machine it be, if it is publicly hosted, Cypress, it needs to be publicly hosted. It needs to have a public IP and needs to be present on the internet for you to connect to it. Okay. And each of those devices, whichever is connected publicly to Flipkart's domain, each of them is shown over here. As you can see, these are the DNS server IP addresses. These are the mail servers for Flipkart. And these are all the subdomains of Flipkart, all of them one by one. Is this clear? Any questions, Cypress, up to this part? Okay, perfect. Now coming to the next part, once you perform this information gathering perfectly, once you get all the information required, once you find all the openings or all the attack vectors possible, you try to gather much more information on those openings. So the next phase, which we talk about, is scanning. So scanning is where you try to perform various different techniques to get some extra information on those servers or on those IP addresses. Okay, so scanning is again divided into 3 parts. This, again, as you can notice, it is to gather much more information about the target by making active connections. What I mean by active connections is that from your device, you're going to be sending some packets to those active servers of the target. And in return, in response to those packets, you get some extra information. Okay. And as I've mentioned earlier, there are 3 categories of scanning. There's something known as network scanning. There's some, excuse me, there's something known as port scanning. And finally, there's something known as vulnerability scanning. In network scanning, we can try to figure out on the target system, on the target network, what all devices are active. So from your device, you can try to figure out on the target network, which devices are active, whether that be client OSs or servers or databases, firewalls, routers, switches, anything. Okay, or even mobile phones as well. Once you know all the active devices, on those devices, you perform port scanning. Trying to figure out on that target device, what services are running and what ports are open. And once you know the services running onto services, you try to find the vulnerabilities. So that is known as vulnerability scanning, trying to find which port is vulnerable and which service can be attacked on. Okay, so in this class, in this topic of scanning, we'll be using very important tools such as Nmap and Nessus automated vulnerability scanner. So if you go to the browser, you can also search for this tool called Nessus. As you can see, this is an automated vulnerability scanning tool. In the organization, you're going to be using the same tool. And again, a very expensive tool, around $4,000 or something for 1 year subscription of the tool. Okay, and this is the same tool that we'll be using in our classes as well. So if you notice over here, in my local device, I have the same tool running Nessus. And once I log in with my credentials, as you can notice, this is how the tool looks like. So you can perform various types of scanning, automated scannings on your local devices, advanced scan or malware scan, to try to figure out what are the vulnerabilities. And once you perform a scan, you can notice this is how the vulnerabilities are shown as. So whatever vulnerabilities are there, they're categorized depending on their impact, and it shows you the report of all the vulnerabilities. In a real-time scenario as well, you perform the same scan. Now, the reason I'm showing you all this is just to make you understand the tools that we'll be using in our classes are the same tools that are used in organizations as well. In a real-time scenario, you will be working with the same tools. So this is a very practical implemented course for you to understand what job you'll be doing once you join a company. Okay. Now, after scanning is done, then we go with the next phase, which is gaining access. Now, this mostly involves us around the hacking phase of what hackers do, or what attackers can perform, or what exploitation they can perform. How do they gain access to your system? And also on an ethical hackers part, how do you defend yourself from these kinds of attacks? Okay, now this is a very huge concept, covers a vast variety of topics. And these are the topics as follows. Oh, 1 second, you're asking me a question. Does all that require coding? No, definitely not, Sai Prasad. Cybersecurity domain is such a domain where you require minimum to minimum amount of coding language or development language knowledge. Okay. Unless and until you're going for malware development, creating your own malwares, you don't need to learn coding much. Okay. Basic understanding of computer operating systems and networks and what are IP addresses and basic understanding of how a network works and infrastructure works is more than sufficient. Okay. Other than that, coding language is not at all required. Yeah, definitely. It covers in our syllabus. Okay, now coming to the gaining access part, as I've mentioned, it covers a huge variety of topics. And these are the topics as follows. So the first topic that we learn in gaining access is system hacking. In system hacking, we'll understand how hackers try to crack or bypass Windows operating system password. So if you have a Windows 7 device or a Windows 8 or 10 or 11, doesn't matter which one. If you have a device and if it is locked, how can you crack that password? If you are unable to crack it, how do you bypass it and still get access to the internal passwords or internal user account files? Okay, or whatever personal files are there inside the operating system. After you bypass the password, how do you get access to them? By cracking the password is what we'll learn in system hacking. After that comes malware attacks. Malwares are nothing but malicious softwares. So we'll understand how hackers create these malwares. How do you practically generate or develop malwares, such as viruses, worms, trojans, spyware, rootkit, whatnot, and how do you defend your system from these different types of malwares. Now, along with this, they have also added a bonus concept called malwares advanced, where in this I'll be showing you basic programming of how malwares are created. Okay, basic Python programming of how you can create your own keyloggers or backdoors. Okay, again, not just a bonus topic. You in this part will cover basics of basic Python programming. Again, I'll be teaching that myself, and that is included in the course. You don't need to learn it anywhere separately, somewhere else. Okay. After that, then we'll come with network penetration testing, which involves all the common network attacks in a local network. How can hackers try to capture your usernames or passwords, or how can they hack your Wi-Fi routers and all that? So sniffing attacks, man-in-the-middle attacks, denial of service attacks, or hacking Wi-Fi networks or wireless routers. All that comes under network penetration testing. And then comes social engineering attack, where I'll show you how hackers can create fake websites. So fake Facebook website, Twitter website, fake any social media website, or fake banking login page. How do hackers create these fake login pages, and how do they create these fake emails? And from those fake login pages, how do they get the credentials? Is what we learn in social engineering. Then comes a web application pen testing, where in this we learn how hackers try to attack websites. How do they get access to the databases or the backend web servers using attacks such as SQL injection, cross-site scripting, broken authentication, file upload vulnerability, whatnot. Okay. Then we come across hacking mobile phones. How to hack an Android phone by generating malwares, Android malware, specifically Android trojans, to get a remote connection from an Android phone from a remote direction. Okay. Then finally, we'll also discuss about a very important tool called Splunk. Splunk is a SIM tool, security incident and event management tool. So we'll be covering the basics of that Splunk tool to understand in an organization, how do they perform monitoring and how do they perform logging. Then after all this is done, then we go with the maintaining access part of how hackers try to maintain persistent connections. So that even if the user restarts the system, how do you maintain the connection and get access to the device? Then finally comes reporting or clearing traces, where we'll see how to generate a report or how do you remove all the evidences of all the penetration testing performed. Okay, now since not everyone could be from the technical background, we also cover a few prerequisites as well. Okay, so since before we dive into the advanced concepts, we learn what is virtualization, how to install a lab set upon a machine, then what is networking, such as basic IP addresses, what are IPv4, what are IPv6, what is a DNS server, what is DHCP protocol. We learn all these basic networking concepts. And then we'll dive into basic Linux and Windows commands, because Linux is very important for us, because we'll be using an operating system called Kali Linux. Again, let me show you the website from where you can download it. This is the official website of the OS, Linux OS, kali.org, as you can see. And this is the same operating system that we'll be using in our practicals as well. Okay, so it is very, yeah, will do. Cypress, I will share the syllabus as well, not an issue. Okay, so again, as I've mentioned, so this is the whole syllabus for the course. Okay, so we'll basically learn how to, one second. So we'll basically learn how to install and manage our virtual machines. We'll learn basic networking concepts, Linux commands, Windows commands, and then we'll dive into the advanced concepts of the whole course. So this is the whole course content of our whole duration of the course. Again, it's going to take around a month to 45 days, 30 to 45 days to complete the whole course, where we'll have classes from Monday to Friday every day for 1 hour. Okay. And the batch is starting from Monday, which is tomorrow itself at 8 p.m. So tomorrow will be the first class for networking concepts. So just in case if you're interested, you can join this class for networking by contacting the institute. Yeah, fees. Coming to the fees part, Cyprus, compared to all the other institutes, not again, not talking bad about any other institute, but comparatively, you can compare your prices with any other institute. DurgaSoft is providing the course for 8,000 rupees, the cheapest of the cheapest, because I work for a few other institutes as well from Bangalore and from Hyderabad itself. And trust me, they're pricing double the price of what DurgaSoft is charging for the same course content again. Okay, so I'm the same person who teaches for other institutes as well. But again, as I've mentioned, for the same course content, DurgaSoft is providing it at 8,000 rupees for the cheapest of cheapest prices. Again, it also provides recordings, which means every day, whatever class we take, DurgaSoft records those classes and uploads it to their Google Drive. And after the class completes, you can access the recordings whenever you want to. Just in case if you have missed out any class, you can access the recordings as well. So the whole course is priced at 8,000 rupees, inclusive of all the live classes, inclusive of the recordings, inclusive of the soft copy of all the materials, which I'll be sharing, the books. 1 second. Certification. Yeah, after you complete the course, Cyprus, you will be getting a course completion certificate. But if you're interested in doing a certification, we assist in certifications as well. So you can write a certified ethical hacking certification once you're done with the course. Okay, and you can apply for it. And so we also provide again, there is complete pass guarantee from DurgaSoft Academy for the certification. So once you apply for the course, once you apply for the certification, we'll see to it that you get the certificate without fail. You'll pass in the certification with the preparation. Again, there's tons of job opportunities in cybersecurity domain, Cyprus. Depends on your skill and on your preparation on how you do in the interview. Again, just to give you a very clear picture, I can show you a website called jobs.null.community. This is the website that I show usually during our classes, but since you have asked me, let me show right now itself. This is the website specifically for cybersecurity jobs. And you can notice there are different openings, there are different branches in cybersecurity. And if you're a complete fresher, you can click on fresher and internship as well. And these are the job openings specifically for freshers. If you're an experienced candidate, you can go for others also. As you can see, there's tons and tons of openings over here. Okay, so depending on your interest, depending on your skill set, you can apply for any job over here. Okay, so these are a lot of, again, trust me, there's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of openings on cybersecurity at the moment in India. Depends on your skill set and depends on your preparation on how you do in the interview. Again, I'll also be sharing the commonly asked interview questions as well during the course to prepare you for the interview so that you can apply for different job roles. Any other questions, Cyprus? Okay, thanks for asking me those questions. Really good questions again. So yeah, appreciate them. Any other questions, Cyprus, before I end the session? Perfect. Thank you, Cyprus. Thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate the feedback. If there's any, please let me know if there's any audio issues on my end or if the video was stuck here and there. I hope there was no issues with the session on my part. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, that's it for our session, Cyprus. Nothing more to discuss. I've already sent you my number, so just ping me a hi so that I can send you the syllabus via WhatsApp. And yeah, that's it. Nothing more to discuss. I hope you like the session. And yeah, if you're interested, please join the class tomorrow at 8 p.m. Tomorrow, there's the first session for networking. Okay, so we'll learn the basics of basic networking concepts like IPv4 addresses and IPv6 addresses in tomorrow's class. So that would be the first class at 8 p.m. again. Okay, so yeah, have a good day and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Take care.